Okay, today's video is going to be a little different, and I know I haven't made one in a while. I was trying to be less complainy, um, but one of my friends posted on Facebook that last night her mother visited her in a dream, and just so you know, right off the bat, both her and I very much believe in the paranormal kind of stuff. Um, but then that post and the comments underneath it got me thinking to my own experiences of loved ones and dreams after death and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what what I posted on her Facebook status because I thought maybe one of the half dozen of you would find it interesting. Um, so, uh, probably like 3 years ago, I guess, I posted something to this channel. It was one of my first ever videos, and it was kind of a reply to somebody else about a paranormal experience. And I'll just give you the short Cliff's Notes version of it. And that is that when I was a child, I lived in the same house that my aunt and, well, of course, my mother and my uncle lived in when they were children. And when I was about 8, I was sitting on the stairs. The way the house was arranged, it was like a row home, and the stairs were like here, and then the sofa was like right at the bottom of the stairs, and then the front door. The TV was like over in the corner opposite the front door. So I was sitting on the stairs playing with the Barbie, watching TV with my parents. They were both like just engrossed in the TV show, and they didn't notice when I didn't say anything. I felt, that feeling what you get when you feel like someone's staring at you and it feels like the hairs on the back of your head stand up. I had that feeling and I was like, well, this is fucked up. Well, I didn't say that because I was 8, but I said to myself, well, this is weird because we're home alone. What could that be? So I look up at the top of the stairs and there's a giant floating face that looks like not a regular human face. It's greenish with yellow eyes and they're bloodshot and black hair and but almost bald. And I saw it and I turned around. Most like 8-year-old children would be like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is that?" Well, once again, they wouldn't swear. But I saw this thing and I just turned around and I turned back up and it was gone and I forgot about it for years. Then about 8 years later, I was at a holiday party with my aunt. It was either Thanksgiving or Christmas, I don't remember, probably Christmas. And we were getting into like paranormal slash ghost stories, if that's what you want to call them, because that's what we always did, because that's what we were always like into and interested in. They were telling me about some website and all this different stuff. I was like, hey, it just like came back to me, and I was like, when I was 8, I saw this thing at the top of the stairs. I was playing down at the bottom with a Barbie while my parents were watching TV, and before I could even say what it was, my aunt, who had also lived there when she was my age, said, "You know what? That sounds awfully familiar. When I was about 8 playing with my dolls at the bottom of the stairs, I saw something else. Was it this?" And she went on to describe it in perfect detail, and I had not told anybody, not even my own parents, about this, so it's not like it could have happened like someone heard it through the grapevine. No, I kept that shit to myself, and then I repressed it, and then I remembered it at the right moment for her to hear it and be like, yep, I did the same thing when I was your age and I lived in the same house. So that's really weird that it revealed itself to both of us, even though I don't think it could know that we were related, or even if it did, why not my mom and me? It was my Aunt Sherry and me, and we always had this weird, like, what I sometimes now refer to as like a soul connection. Like, did you ever see the movie Johnny Darko? Johnny Darko? Fuck that. Donnie Darko. And you remember the part of the movie where his, like, there's like this silvery thing that, like, comes out of his body and goes and, like, does something? Well, I've sometimes felt like when I get close to a person, I just feel like almost the same, but not in the same way. Like I feel this like silvery bright, almost like light emit from my chest, like a part of my soul. And then I feel it like go towards them, like now we are connected. Like now we are like soulmates almost. Um, I felt that with my aunt, and she passed away this June. And, and I heard once that sorry, I'm definitely an ugly crier. So I heard once that um if you dream of somebody after they pass away, that's them telling you to move on, that they're okay, or that's you trying to move on yourself, trying to be okay with it. I mean, you can never really move on if it's someone you love. But flashback a couple of years to when my grandfather died, almost let's start with this. He was in his 80s, so he wasn't like a spring chicken anymore, and he had been sick. He had cancer and diabetes, and he was in bad shape before he passed away, so we all knew it was going to come eventually. So it was easier to accept that than my aunt, who was still kind of young, and it was not expected. But of course, it was still hard because I love my grandfather. But like 3 or 4 days after he passed, it was almost like a movie because I think everything in my head is always like dramatized or like fantasy world, and I don't know if it was like I don't know. I don't know if that was me setting the scene or if it's just how it is or whatever. But it was like almost a blank canvas, very like white light, very like light blue, and like kind of cloudy. Not really like clouds, like puffy clouds, but like steamy, like when somebody walks in from like the fog in a movie. That's what it was like. And it was my grandfather, like 4 days after he passed, and he just walked in as far as he needed to be out of the fog. Kind of turned halfway to go back, gave me like a little half smile, and did one of these, like a wave where you're not like hi, but you're just like. And then he like stood there and looked at me for a second, and then he turned and walked away. And it wasn't long, and it wasn't emotional because that's how he was alive. He wasn't, prone to super emotional displays or even like talking that much. So that's really appropriate for him. Well, that gave me some peace of mind or whatever. So it's been about 5 months since the passing of my aunt, and I haven't dreamed of her yet because I'm frankly not ready yet. And um, so I haven't dreamed of her, but not very long after she passed, maybe a couple weeks, probably not quite a month, I just was here in this space and I felt her presence. Like I said earlier, I'm very susceptible to that kind of thing. Like, if there is a spirit or a ghost or whatever you want to call it, I probably know that it's there and what kind of personality it has, if it's like a violent kind of thing, or if it's peaceful, or if it's protecting, or like whatever its deal is. So every house we lived in, I've always noticed there's like some sort of something there, and sometimes they're fine and sometimes they're not. But luckily enough, the times that they weren't, they didn't have the power to really do anything about it. Um, but anyway, about, let's just call it a month afterwards, I felt her here, and it was like things immediately like brightened up. Not in the movie version where like the lights literally got brighter, but I just felt like from depressed to like relieved. It was just like all the weight had been taken off me. And then I felt like a warm hug. Like she was trying to tell me that I was okay. And when I think about it, I can still feel it. So, I don't know what the point of this video is other than to share my own experiences. If you have people you're missing and you're not especially attuned to the other side, or you're more like um, religious than spiritual or something like that, just be open to them and they might visit you. It feels good when they do. And if you're not as like open to like having them in the real world, maybe you'll dream about them.